Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things and welcome to another video. And today I thought I would give you some tips if you would like to start a booktube channel of your own. So this is obviously going to be a slightly different video. I have been thinking about making this video for a very long time. I think I first planned out one of these videos more than a year ago, and then I didn't do it because I didn't feel qualified to give people advice on how to start a booktube channel. However, I have been doing this for 4.5 years, so I feel like I do have knowledge and wisdom to impart. So I have put together a list of tips for starting and then growing in the early stages a booktube channel. The first half of these tips are tips for sort of creating content, and the second half are tips for sort of supporting your channel and what to do once you have made your content and your videos to put up online. Obviously this might not be relevant for everyone here, but if you are interested in starting a booktube channel, or you've just started one, or you've had one for a little bit of time but you still feel like you have things to learn, then hopefully this will be useful. I'm also hoping this will be interesting even if you have no interest in ever starting a booktube channel, in terms of knowing a few more things behind the scenes on booktube. So here we go. I have 18 tips, which is a lot, so we'll see how long this video will end up being. First, to talk about content and creating videos. Tip number 1 is to be yourself and to read the books you want to read. I think it is very easy when starting booktube to feel like either you have to put on a particular persona or you have to try and read the books that everyone else is reading. And I don't think you have to do that, and I think it is important to relax and be yourself, because otherwise it will not be fun. And this may sound like a really obvious and simple thing, but I do think it's important to remember. I think I was really worried before I started booktube because so many of the booktubers I watch are really funny, and I don't think I'm very funny, and I was really worried that people wouldn't enjoy my content because I'm not funny, but I have other things to bring to the internet apart from humour. So I think it's just important to remember to be yourself, and that your personality is what you bring to booktube. One of the reasons why I so much prefer watching booktube and doing booktube to writing or reading book blogs is because I think it's so much easier to get your personality across in them. And yes, I do subscribe to people because I like their taste in books, but I also subscribe to people because I like them as people and I'm interested in them, and it's important therefore to try and be yourself, and also to read the books you want to read so that people will engage both with your personality and your bookish taste from the beginning. Don't feel you have to get caught up in the hype of all the new releases. There are plenty of other things you can have to bring to booktube. I think before I started booktube I was trying to get myself much more into upmarket literary fiction, because that's what a lot of the UK bigger booktubers really like, and also I was a bit worried about how much I enjoyed classics and whether people would like content about classics, because now less so, but certainly when I started YouTube 4.5 years ago there were not that many booktubers talking about classics, but actually people seem to like me talking about classics. So read what you want to read, be yourself, that is important for your videos. My second tip is to post both frequent and regular content, and if you can't post frequent content, make sure it's regular. Let me explain what I mean by this. YouTube has algorithms, and YouTube uses its algorithms to recommend videos to other people. I cannot tell you what YouTube's algorithm is, but I can tell you that the more regularly and frequently you post, the more YouTube will recommend your videos to other people who are watching similar videos. I post 2 videos a week, and excepting sort of any unusual personal circumstances or any bonus videos during readathons, I post my videos at 6:30 AM UK time on a Monday and at 6:30 AM UK time on a Thursday, and I do that every single week, and I've been doing that every single week for years, and that I think has helped my channel grow a lot and means that YouTube recommends me to other people because I post twice a week and I post at the exact same time twice a week. It's not possible for everyone to post twice a week. It is a lot of work, especially if, like me, you edit your videos. Sometimes it is a struggle to be able to put up 2 videos a week. But if you can't put up 2 videos a week, and you can only put up 1 video a week, I would highly recommend putting it up at the same time every week. And if you can only put up a video every fortnight, I would recommend putting it up on the same day every fortnight, because the YouTube algorithm is like regularity as well as frequency. And it's not just for the YouTube algorithm. I do think that people are hungry for content, and people like to have more content from people they're subscribed to, and I also think that if you have big gaps between videos, you run the risk of people kind of forgetting who you are after they subscribe to you. Certainly I've subscribed to people before and then they haven't posted a video for a month, and when their next video comes up in my subscription feed, I can't remember who they are or why I subscribed to them. That won't necessarily happen with everyone, but I'm subscribed to over 200 booktubers. I know many of their faces, but not the faces of every single one. So actually, if your content is very regular, that's less likely to happen and you won't lose subscribers through that as well. My third tip is to remember that you don't need too much tech at all to start a YouTube channel. When I started my YouTube channel, I filmed my videos and my sound on a digital camera, which was quite old. If you go back to any of my videos, you will hear the buzzing in the background is quite bad. I did not have a tripod. My camera was Blu-tacked to my music stand, which was balanced on top of my bedside table. And I always put the lights on when I filmed, even if it was daylight. That was my setup. I had been doing Booktube for, I think, 2.5 years before I got a tripod. I had been doing Booktube for nearly 4 years before I bought myself a video camera. I do not use a microphone. I still just use the microphone on my video camera. You will probably find that if you have a smartphone, your smartphone camera is pretty good and its sound is probably good as well. If you have a digital camera, you may also find that that has a good video function. I will say that, like, when I started Booktube 5 years ago, it's probably more common to have a digital camera. I don't know how many people actually have digital cameras now. Like, mine was quite a cheap, basic digital camera. And now, like, your smartphone can kind of do everything that camera I had could do. That camera also, in fact, could only record 8 minutes at a time, and its SD card could only store 60 minutes of footage. So if I ever made a really long video, I would have to, like, film 8 minutes, pause, film 8 minutes, pause, put it all onto my computer, and then start again. It was such a pain. But I did that and it was fine. I still don't have any proper lighting. Some of my videos are a bit dark, it's probably true. I think one day I might get some lighting, but every time I film, I try and film during the day if I can, not always possible. I work during the day. If I'm busy at the weekends, I film in the evening after work, and in the winter it's always dark. When I'm filming right now, it is after dark. I have the lights on and I have 3 lamps on in this room, all of which will go off after I finish filming. So if you have lamps, bring the lamps around you. They don't have to be professional, proper lighting. And if you don't have lamps, try and film during the day if you can, but if you can't, if your camera is alright, it will probably pick up your face. I think as well it's good to remember that for Booktube, your sound is much more important than your visuals. I don't care when I'm watching Booktube if someone's face is a bit blurry or their background is a bit pixelated. I do care if I can't hear them, because 1, I usually listen to Booktube, and 2, what I'm interested in is what people are saying on Booktube. But actually a lot of phones have a decent microphone on them, or you can buy microphones but not a full camera quite cheaply. And also it's worth remembering that quite a lot of editing software will let you digitally raise the volume of the speech and let you like get rid of background noise as well, which is something worth looking out for as well if you are having troubles with sound. And talking of editing, my 4th tip is to edit your videos. Now, you do not have to edit your videos, not everyone does. There are plenty of booktubers who I watch and who I love who don't do any editing, whose videos are all spoken through. But not everyone can do that, and actually I think it's a huge pressure off yourself if you allow yourself to edit. I could not make Booktube if I did not edit my videos, because sometimes I can't string a sentence together, or sometimes I forget what I'm saying in the middle of a sentence. And also I talk exceedingly fast, and you may think already that I talk exceedingly fast, but actually every video you see from me is slowed down to 90% speed. I digitally slow down all of my videos with my video editing software. I also, if I ever film my phone, for example, if I'm doing a vlog, I also raise the audio level on my editing software because my phone is not that loud. My video camera is absolutely fine, so I don't do that there. But there are lots of things besides cutting out the ums and the big silences that I do with my editing software that make it very helpful and that make it better, I think, as a watching experience for people. I think when you're just starting out, knowing that you can edit makes it much easier and means that you don't have to kind of do everything perfectly in one take, that you don't have to script videos if you don't want to. If you want to, of course do, but if it takes the pressure off to just be able to ramble and sort it out with editing later, that is quite helpful. And I have found for me that that has made a huge difference to feeling comfortable on Booktube, the fact that I can edit, and that if I say something stupid or I say something wrong or I lose my trail in the middle of a sentence, as I'm about to do now, I'm trying not to, then I can just edit it out later, and if there's a giant silence or I need to look something up in a book because I've forgotten the main character's name, I can do that and I can just edit it out later, and that takes off a lot of the pressure. I also think that if you, like me, have a tendency to ramble, it can be useful to edit your videos in order to control the length. Sometimes I do cut out bits, you know, like a minute of discussion from my video because I've decided on retrospect that it wasn't very interesting and that the video would be better, a bit more concise. I think editing can help that. Which leads me on to my 5th tip, which is to not make your videos too long to begin with. There is nothing wrong with a long video. I love a long video. There are many videos on this channel you can find that are 37 minutes, and one or two that might be over 40 minutes, and there are plenty that are 20 minutes. But I think when you're just starting your channel, you should try to have at least 50% of your videos not too much over 10 minutes. My ideal length for a Booktube video that I'm making is between like 8 and 15 minutes. And I know that if I'm doing a wrap up or a favourite books of the year video or like a deep analytical discussion about a particular Victorian novel, then it's going to be longer, and that's fine. I know people don't mind, especially when it's a wrap up. But actually for the majority of my videos, I would try and make them between 8 and 15 minutes. And I think when you're just starting out, it is important to have some shorter videos on your channel so that new subscribers can find a shorter video to watch to know if they like you or not. If someone gives a shout out to a channel that they really like and you go to that channel to try one of their videos and all of their videos are half an hour long, often you just won't try. And I do think it's important, especially when you're starting out, to have a few shorter videos, maybe amongst some longer ones, or to try and keep your videos in general down a little bit to under 15 minutes, to closer to 10 minutes if you can, just to make sure your videos are accessible for new watchers when you're just starting your channel. My 6th tip is to practice before you post, and to know that the first video you film doesn't have to be the first video you put up. It's very easy to film a video and feel really unhappy with it because you've never filmed a video before and it's scary. And definitely before I started my Booktube channel, I filmed several videos that never got posted. Like, I think I tried filming my first 2 videos several times before I got a version I was happy with. Now I would never do another take of a video because I edit so much, but when I started I did, and that was actually really helpful. One, to get me in the habit of filming and to get me comfortable with the camera, and also to make me realise that it didn't matter if it was perfect or not. My 7th tip, which I did not follow myself, is to do the Booktube newbie tag. I never did the Booktube newbie tag. I don't know why. I think I just didn't know that it existed. But I would highly recommend, if you're starting a Booktube channel, to do the Booktube newbie tag, because a lot of people find new people by searching the Booktube newbie tag in the search box on YouTube and finding who has newly joined Booktube. If you do the Booktube newbie tag, people will find your channel through that tag. I think it is a really good idea to do that tag. And I don't know why I didn't. I would highly recommend making that either the first video you put up or the second or third. I also think that it's quite a good video to have as an introduction to your channel for people further down the line. Like, if I discover a Booktube channel now that has been going for 6 months, I usually look back to the beginning of their channel and look at their Booktube newbie tag if they have one, to give me like an introduction to their channel. So I think that's a good thing to have as well. And on a similar note, I would also say that when you're just starting out a Booktube channel, it's really useful to do all of those regular Booktube standard content. Do TBRs, do book hauls, do wrap-ups, and obviously intersperse them with more creative things to do as well. But actually it will really help people find your channel if you do TBRs and hauls and wrap-ups, because people search for them, and also because YouTube will recommend videos with similar titles to people watching a particular video. If I'm watching someone's January wrap-up, YouTube will recommend me other people's January wrap-up. So if you have videos with similar titles to other people's videos, that helps with the YouTube algorithm. I think it's really worth, when you're starting Booktube, using those kind of regular content. One, because it gives you ideas early on and helps you kind of get into the swing of things, but also because it will help people find you at the beginning. My 8th tip for content creating is to take part in read-alongs and readathons, and post separate TBRs when you do so that people know you are taking part. Read-alongs and readathons are really good fun. They're also a great way of getting involved in the Booktube community and feeling like you're part of the Booktube community, and they're also a great way for other people to find your channel, because if people are taking part in a particular readathon, they may be looking for other people who are also taking part in that particular readathon, and also the hosts of that readathon may also be looking for people who are taking part. I find so many new booktubers every year through Victober and Jane Austen July, And I think it is important and useful to take part in things like that early on in your channel to help people discover you and to help you discover people more like you and get more engaged with the community too. And also, Booktube is so big and there are so many readathons and so many read-alongs going on that you will definitely be able to find one for you. Don't feel pressured to take part in a readathon or a read-along that has nothing to do with what your reading taste and nothing to do with what you like, but there is bound to be one out there that does, so go for it. The next tip for content creation is to keep a list of video ideas. It can seem a bit daunting when you're starting off Booktube, like how to think of all the ideas that you need to do, especially if you're trying to do 1 or 2 videos a week and make really regular content. And I think it's really good to just keep a list of video ideas that you can always fall back on. And there are many places to get video ideas from, whether it's the books you read or watching other people on Booktube, but I keep a really long Word document on my computer of video ideas, and video plans as well, I suppose, I put in the same document. And if I ever have an idea, I add it to that document, or I write it down on my phone if I'm out and about and then add it to the document later. And that means that if I'm ever stuck for what to film in a particular week, I can go to my backup list and look through all of the ideas I've had over the last year, and kind of put those ideas into practice. So that's the first half of the video. Those are my tips for like creating content. The rest of this video is going to be about like supporting your content. So like branding, I guess, and metadata and watching Booktube and using social media and all of those things. My first tip for this is to think carefully about your thumbnail pictures for your videos to make sure they have your face in and preferably you holding up a book, or put some book pictures around you. Simply because when you're scrolling through Booktube, people's profile pictures are pretty tiny. I'll get into profile pictures in a second, but people's profile pictures are pretty tiny. People's channel names are pretty tiny. Basically what you see when you're looking through your YouTube subscription feed, especially on your phone, is the thumbnail images. I do think it's really helpful if the thumbnail image of your picture is a picture of you with some books, because that means that the person who's recently subscribed to you, who's scrolling through your subscription feed, knows that that's a video from you, recognises you from a video they've seen before, knows that they want to watch it, and also knows that it is a bookish video about books. All of these things are very helpful. My next tip on a similar note is to put a picture of yourself and some books in your profile picture, and to make sure that you have a profile picture. Similarly, I would encourage you to have your channel name to be something to do with books. And I know that there are quite a lot of big booktubers whose channel names are just their names, but I think it is important to remember that quite a few of them used to have different, more bookish channel names and have recently changed them. Not all of them, but quite a few. And actually, I think especially when you're starting out, it's really useful to have a channel name which tells everyone looking at it that it is a Booktube channel. Similarly, I would encourage adding a description to your Booktube channel saying something about your taste in books and the fact that this is a Booktube channel. Basically, you want to make it as clear as possible to anyone who might come across your channel in any way that it is a Booktube channel. So often I find new Booktubers to watch by interesting comments that they leave on my channel. When I had just started Booktube, I used to check every person that commented on me whether or not they had a channel. I do not have time to do that now because I have too many comments. But if someone's YouTube name is a string of numbers or just a person's name and they don't have a profile picture on YouTube and just comes up with the first letter of their username, I will automatically assume that they don't have a channel, and I will never bother to look and check whether or not they do have a channel. Similarly, to be honest, if their channel name is something unbookish and they have just a picture of themselves, I'll probably assume they don't have a Booktube channel. But if their username is something clearly bookish and their profile picture is of them holding up some books, I will probably assume that they have a Booktube channel, and I'll be so much more likely to go and check whether or not they do if they leave me an interesting comment. And it may sound like a minor thing, but actually that's how a lot of people find people, through comments on other people's channels and things like that. And the more obvious you can make it in your profile picture and your channel name that you have a Booktube channel, the better. My next tip is to use metadata. Now, I love metadata. I'm nerdly into metadata, and there are many places in which you find metadata on YouTube. Basically, metadata is sort of all of the data that is attached to your video. So words that are in the title, words that are in the description of your video, and also the tags section of YouTube. All of these words that you put in all of these places are metadata, which means they are searchable terms. And the more words you have as metadata attached to your video, the more searchable terms you have attached to your video, the easier it is for people to find your video through the YouTube search. In terms of making your video easy to find through YouTube search, the first thing is to make your title easy to find and relevant to what you're doing. If I'm doing a particular review of a single book, I would put that book title in the title. If I'm doing an author spotlight, I would put that author's name in the video title. Most of my video titles are really self-explanatory. You know, the video does what it says on the tin, because I think that makes it easier to search for, easier for people to find what they're looking for. Similarly, if you ever look in my video descriptions, you will find a list of all of the books that I talk about with links to those books or those authors on Goodreads. And I do this partly so people can easily track down the books that I'm talking about and look into them for themselves. That's partly why I do it, but I also do it because of metadata. Because if in my January wrap-up I talk about The Lie by Helen Dunmore, if I didn't have a description in this video, because it is a video, no one would ever be able to search The Lie Helen Dunmore and find my review of it. Whereas if it's listed in my description, if someone wants to find a review of The Lie by Helen Dunmore and they type that into YouTube, my video might come up. And another thing that is very useful for this is tags. So you might not know where the tag section is on YouTube if you're new to uploading videos. So I will put in some print screen things beside me to show you where it is. But basically the tag section is really, really useful to add in words and kind of search terms, things that people might be searching YouTube for that are relevant to your video but wouldn't necessarily be in the title or the description. For example, many of my wrap-ups I put in the tag historical fiction, because I read a lot of historical fiction, there's probably a historical novel in there, and Victorian fiction and classics and things like that. I use these tags so that people can find my videos when they're searching for videos about classics, even if it's a January wrap-up which has a few classics in and isn't explicitly about classics. And you know, in my 5 Victorian novels about industrialisation video, amongst the tags I would have put tags for classics and 1800s and 19th century, things that are not in the video title but are relevant. Tags are also really useful for common misspelling. So for example, I know that a lot of people out there do not know how to spell Jane Austen and spell Austen with an I rather than an E at the end, and therefore if I'm ever talking about Jane Austen, I will put Austen with an I in my metadata so that anyone searching for Jane Austen who doesn't know how to spell Jane Austen might still be able to find my video. I also put in the tags of all of my videos general like booktube and reading related words such as reading and literary and Booktube books, currently reading, new books, book reviews, review, all of these words go into my tags. I don't necessarily think that many people use tags and they're really, really useful, so I would highly recommend them. They make it so much easier for people searching on Booktube to find your videos. My next tip is to watch a lot of Booktube, and this kind of divides into 2 strands. The first is to watch and interact with Booktubers who read books that are similar to you. If you love classics, watch Booktubers who also love classics and leave comments on their channel. It's so important to leave comments because Booktubers find each other through comments so often, and also viewers will find other Booktubers through comments on people's channels that they read and they find interesting. If you like classics, watch Booktubers who talk about classics. If you like historical fiction, watch Booktubers who like historical fiction. If you like crime and thrillers, watch Booktubers who like these things and talk to them about it in the comments, because it makes it much easier to make connections and also to find their viewers who have similar reading tastes to you and might be interested in your videos as well. And the second strand of this tip is to watch and interact with Booktubers who are the same size as you and who have also recently started Booktube. A good way of finding new Booktubers is to search the Booktube newbie tag and find people that way, as I already mentioned. I think it's really important and nice to find Booktubers the same size as you who are also just starting out. One, because they're doing the same thing as you and you're on the same path, and that's really exciting and nice and you can support each other through that. And also because they are looking for new people to watch as well, probably, and they are more likely to be looking at everyone who leaves comments on their channel, seeing if they have a channel, wanting to get involved in buddy reads, looking for new Booktube friends. I try really hard to look for new and smaller Booktubers all the time, and I definitely do. Like, a lot of the people I watch are channels with under 1,000 or under 500 subscribers, or people who are quite new. But I find it harder and harder the bigger my channel gets. Like I said, I used to look at every single comment I received, whether or not they had a channel, you know, searching the Booktube newbie tag, things like that, looking for new people. But I'm getting to the stage where I'm subscribed to more than 200 booktubers. My watch creator playlist is out of control. I find it harder than I used to. Whereas newer booktubers who are subscribed to less people, newer to Booktube as a whole, have less people commenting on their channels, they're more likely to be more interactive with you immediately, and they're really great people to find and befriend as you're starting your Booktube journey. And my next tip is to interact with the people who watch you. It is really important to reply to comments. I would say that when your channel is just starting out, hopefully you'll have time to reply to every comment you receive. Obviously, if the comment is really rude or really weird, don't reply to it, ignore it or delete it. The choice is entirely yours. But when people leave nice and interesting comments on your channel, do reply and interact with them, and don't just say thank you for your comment. Start a conversation, ask questions, and see if the people who are commenting on your channel have a channel of their own. I think it really makes your channel feel more like a community, and is also how often you get the most interesting conversations started on Booktube. My next tip is kind of like on the line, and that is to mention that you have a channel to other booktubers, but not in a weird way. I think there are like different ways of doing it. I've had people comment on my channel where the only thing they say is, please can you check out my channel, which doesn't make me want to check out their channel. But if someone posts on my channel and says, it's really interesting that you love this book, I quite enjoyed it too, I reviewed it recently on my channel, I am very likely to go and look up their video on that book because that's interesting. Or if I'm hosting a readathon and someone comments down below and says, I'm really excited to take part on this readathon, this is my first year on Booktube taking part in this readathon, I'm likely to go and look at them. There are ways of mentioning to people that you have a channel in a nice way that isn't spamming people with links to your channel and forcing them to go and look at your channel. There are nice ways of doing it, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to do if you find a nice and polite way to suggest to people that they might look at your channel, or just make it known to people you're commenting on that you do have a channel. And again, I think the more you do this with booktubers your own size, the better, because they are more likely to be looking for new people to watch and new booktube friends to make. I mean, also you can tell bigger booktubers too, like, please tell me if you started a channel. But I do think it is useful to mention that you have a channel, like, especially if you've just started a channel but you've been a long-term booktube watcher and you have commented on people's channels before. There have been people who have started a channel whose comments I've been reading for years and I've been interested in, but because they didn't used to have a channel when they started commenting, I've never realised that they started a channel. I think it is okay to mention that you have a channel, especially if you're like have engagement with people on Booktube already in a different way. My next tip is to support your channel through social media. This, of course, it's up to you how much you do this, but I do think it's useful if you have a Booktube channel to have Goodreads, to have Twitter, and possibly Instagram as well. I still post links on Twitter to nearly every video that I put up on Booktube, and I think the fact that I use Goodreads a lot and write a lot of reviews on Goodreads has helped Booktube, and the fact that I have a Bookstagram account as well and use that, I think that all of that kind of supports having a channel. And it also means there are ways for booktubers to reach you outside of YouTube comments. If you have Instagram or Twitter, it's much easier for another booktuber who wants to do a buddy read with you to message you on those sites than it is through YouTube. And social media beyond Booktube isn't the be all and end all, but I do think it is quite useful to support your channel and post about Booktube and to follow other booktubers on other social media as well as Booktube as well, to kind of see what they're doing on them as well. My very final tip is to have fun. Booktube should be fun. It is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. And while I have given you many tips, some of which feel a bit more like, you know, professional and metadata-y than others, Booktube is mostly about having fun, and if you're enjoying it, then that is the most important thing. I think it's very easy when you're just starting a channel to get bogged down in the numbers, especially because you're often interacting with people who've started at the same time as you, and if they're growing faster, that can feel a bit tricky sometimes. But actually, like, Booktube is fun, and if you enjoy making bookish content, and if you enjoy the bookish friends you're making and the people you're talking to in the comments about books, then that's great, and that is the point, and that is primarily what Booktube is for. So, I really hope this video has been useful. I hope it hasn't been too long, and I hope I've said some things which will have helped you if you are early in the journey of Booktube. I would also highly recommend, if you're interested in more detailed things about starting a Booktube channel and making a Booktube channel, running a Booktube channel, Claudia from the Spencer's Library has an amazing series called How I Booktube about all of these things, which is just fantastic. I'm going to link her channel down below and that playlist. Please do go and have a watch of that as well, because that has some absolutely fantastic tips and like fantastic information for starting a booktube channel. Finally, if you have recently started a booktube channel, please let me know down in the comments. This is an invitation. Tell me that you have a channel. I will try and go and watch it. And finally, if you have any questions about starting a booktube channel or running a booktube channel or any things that don't make sense that I've said today or any other advice you would like, then please let me know down in the comments. If there are enough questions, I might do like a booktube themed Q&A, but I'm not sure if there will be. So just put all of your questions down below if you have them and I will do my best to answer them. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was useful and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.